Well, good evening, everybody. Welcome to RaceOnOz PS4 Tier Season 7 Round 5 on Assetto Corsa Competizione. You have myself tonight, Jamie, flying solo. Please do let me know in the chat if the sound balance is coming through okay. I did a little bit of testing before. Hopefully it's coming through okay for you there at home. So just let me know in the chat if something needs a bit of an adjustment. So we're underway here already in qualifying. Practice is wrapped up and we're about to embark on 15 minutes of qualifying leading into a 90-minute race, which is going to be a very long one for the drivers. We had two servers go at it last Tuesday night doing the 90 minutes enduro, and there'll be some tired blokes out there at the end of the evening. So once again, welcome. It is the final round of this season 7. We have a championship to decide tonight, which is great to ensure that we have that coming into the last round. We saw last week 2 new champions crowned in the PS4 Tier 2 as well as the PS5 server. So I can inform you that Simon 666, the BHR driver, took out the Tier 2 PS4 division, and Slambo took home the chocolates in the PS5 server, and there were some great races there across both of those divisions. So our focus here tonight is the PS4 Tier 1, which we've been following along all season, and we have the big names here in the server tonight, and looks like we've got 17 drivers, so a good full grid for the final season. I know it can be difficult for the drivers embarking on a five round series, goes over about 10 weeks, and can be easy to have a few drivers drop off towards the back end, particularly as they fall out of contention and life gets in the way of things, but a good compliment here to take us through. So a quick wrap on the championship positions, and Cameron Footner is leading the way for us in Tier 1 here, as he has been all season. He's been right in the mix, winning races. He took out last round, at the Hungaroring, and he's currently 7 points ahead in the championship battle. Andrelli is the driver chasing him at the moment from the GRT team. He's put in some fantastic performances all season. It's been really great to see that step up in speed that we've seen from him, and driving in the Ferrari. He's very confident and comfortable in that now, and it is a tall ask to take it to Footner here to make up a 7-point deficit. However, if he pulls out some good speed and keeps things nice and tidy, and could take advantage of any mistake that Footner might make. A couple of other drivers that are still technically in the hunt for the championship, Burrodog and Stu Carr. It'll be difficult for them. They're quite behind. Burrow's 10 points behind Footner, and Stu is a further 8 points behind Burrodog. So very long odds for them, but they are technically still in the hunt and have had excellent seasons nonetheless. We've seen Burrodog take his maiden victory in the series, which was a great moment at the Spa round. And we've also got some great performances throughout the field that we've seen throughout the season. GT King, Adman, he picked up his first podium in the Pro Division as well. We've seen Gaza, who's put in some great performances across basically every league that he's been driving in at the moment, which is great to see. And then we've had plenty of usual suspects troubling the timesheets in qualifying and the race as well. So we've had some times being laid down now. We're just on board with Andrelli at the moment. GT King currently holding the top spot with a 155.5. So the conditions at the moment are pretty warm. We're looking at a track temp of 36 with a ambient of 28, so it's probably as high as we've seen them throughout the season. A little bit of adjustment there required for the drivers just to get the balance nice for their vehicle. Aaron's popped in there, the Bentley, just a little over a tenth behind GT King, so he's put in some solid performances as well this season, driving the Bentley. Selby Acoustics Racing driver. We'll be looking to see if he can put in a good final performance here this evening. Adman, who I just spoke about briefly with his first podium last round, is really starting to extract that little bit extra out of the Ferrari. Taking that final corner a bit awkwardly there, might be setting up for a hot lap here. Bit of a tricky opening sequence to this circuit. This most recently reprofiled section, I think in the early 2000s, really made it tight and twisty. Curbs, very important to get a good balance over them in the opening sector. There's a lot of time that you can carry. Slow corners, it's where you can often make up the most amount of time. And then we start to open up the track a little bit into sector 2 and 3. Admin's coming down the hill into the hairpin, tricky braking zone. But a favourable camber to kind of hook you into the apex there. We'll see a few different lines there this evening throughout the race. But now in qualifying, it's just all about throwing the car in, getting through each section as quickly as possible. And we're seeing the times at the moment on the board, and they are close. Ty Morgo and Andrelli currently within a tenth of GT King. Still that 155.5, still the time to beat. And then Aaron, Fly, Bounty and Jambon are all within 5 tenths. And then the others aren't too far away either, so could have a really exciting end. But Footner, as he tends to do, has shot to the top of the timesheets with a 154.8. So he hadn't put in a valid lap at all until then, and then bangs in the quickest time so far. Adman comes over the line, he can't improve. So let's see who else we got out there at the moment. GT King was on top of the timesheets and is now 7 tenths behind Footner's time. It's just allowing some drivers to pass. Ty Morgo, he'll be pleased to be troubling towards the top end. He has a little bit of a disappointing season for his standards and his pace. We've mentioned it in the broadcasts previously how he really took the fight to Footner last season, and it went down to the wire, the final round, and it ended up being a tie on points at the end, which Footner won due to a count back on results. But Ty just hasn't managed to get the results here this season, but he's still capable of putting in some very, very good performances. He currently shares the exact same time as Andrelli. Can't improve on that. Let's have a look at Burradog. Looks like he's in a bit of traffic here. Coming through the opening sector, so he might not quite be on a lap now. Let's go back to GT King. So he's started another lap. Let's have a bit of a closer look. He's a tenth or so up. So difficult to maintain speed through there though. Seems to have maintained it nicely. He's currently slightly up on his personal best. Start to head down the hill now, and it's so tricky to find your braking. You could see he just got a little bit a little bit squirrely on the exit there, and that he's starting to drop about a tenth or two coming down the hill. He's taken a lot more speed through there, straightens up the car nicely. Heading up to the Schumacher S's, which is about the only corner sequence with an actual name that I am capable of pronouncing. I think everything else will just be corner numbers from me for the rest of the evening. It's coming down to the final part of the lap now. As we watch him do this, just wanted to say hello to JJ, normally partner in crime on the commentary box for these races. He's currently enjoying a holiday, I believe. I feel like everyone I know is on or has just come back from a holiday, so I think that's telling me something. Maybe I need one myself. Hopefully you get a chance to catch the action either live or on delay. So GT King's managed to slightly improve, but barely by a tenth. Burradog though has popped in a time there that has leapfrogged him to second on the timesheets, so still about half a second away from Footner. He must be close to a flying lap himself, and he is, and he's already up a couple of tenths. Schumacher S's. So you've done so much of the hard work at this point. Finding the braking here, using all of the curbs on the exit. And he's taken a bit too much there, got a bit on the gravel, so he's going to lose that couple of tenths advantage that he'd built up for himself earlier in the lap. And he'll be seeing that time drop all the way down this little straight section here over the final chicane and into the final corner. He's carrying a bit more speed through there, but it doesn't look like he's going to better that time, so he'll get another lap or two. Let's have a look at what else is going on. So Ty and Andrelli, they've been cycling around. They still haven't managed to better their times. And Jambon is a whisker behind them. It is very close. 1 second across the top 10 and a second and a half in the top 14. So pretty incredible. Let's see who else is on a lap here. Ty's coming around the final corner. And he's managed to improve, so he's jumped clear of Aaron and GT King and is now third provisionally. So who else is coming over the line now? I think we've got Sir McSquid coming over, currently 15th. As far as I'm aware, he probably hasn't had a lot of time this season to devote to putting in the laps and the practice that I know he would like, but he's still getting out there, giving it a go, giving it his best. And I know his fellow BHR drivers, myself included, are very, very proud to have him as a teammate because he really gets in and gives it his all. Burradog, what can he do? So on his current lap, very much matching his time that he's laid down so far. He's just under 5 tenths from Footner, so he's got quite a bit to make up in the final two sectors here. He has the Audi of Sir McSquid right in front of him though, and Sir McSquid's gone around and has unfortunately collected the GRT Bentley of Burradog, which will end his qualifying. So unfortunate there for Burra. He looked like he was on course to at least match his existing, or his time that he currently laid down. And Ty Morgo has taken the opportunity, capitalised on Burradog's misfortune to go quicker, as has GT King. So Burradog will be very disappointed that he wasn't able to complete that lap, because two drivers have now managed to vault him. Andrelli has had to call it a day as well. Ty Morgo's still out there. Footner carrying on. Oh, he's a couple of tenths down. We have hit time for the session, so only drivers remaining on valid laps will be able to complete. Jambon, he's about to finish his lap here, and he goes up to 5th, so mover and shaker there for the P&L Bentley driver. Jambon, great time. Ty Morgo realistically is probably the only driver that can make an impact on pole position. He's just coming up to the Schumacher S's himself. It's so important to carry as much speed as possible through here, get a good exit and carry the speed all the way down this straight, or straight with the kink in it, as we lead up to the final chicane. And he's in the car best placed to take this chicane. It monsters these curves as he does, but he's gone perhaps taking a little bit too much on entry. He's managed to keep it together though. He's carrying on his lap, so he may not have invalidated it. Let's see what he's got. So he remains 3rd, so that takes us to the end of the qualifying session, and that flew by, and there was a very, very small spread of times between all drivers here in the server, so great job from everyone. It was Footner who's taken pole position from G2 King, who popped in there just over 3 tenths off, so great time to be snapping at the heels there of Footner, and they'll resume hostilities. It was of course those two who led the way in Hungary last time out. GT King gave Footner a run for his money there, tried to hang on, though Footner did slip away slightly in the second half of the race. GT King will be hoping that he can latch on to Footner, maybe even better him at the start and make a race of this. Ty Morgo and Burradog form the second row. Ty, after a couple of performances that don't really reflect his experience and his speed, is right back up there, and a fellow Bentley driver, Burradog, also back in the top positions in terms of qualifying in 4th. Jambon, Sickle, Andrelli, Adman, Aaron, Fly and Bounty, that's your top 10, all within a second. Very, very close. Rounding out the grid, we have Sparky God, Rigsy, unable to wrestle the Lexus around here as well as he would have liked, but it's still only just over a second off pole, as is Gaz in 13th. Pretty incredible that, to be a second off and 13th position. Metal Steel, Angry Old Fella, Sir McSquid and Tabasco will round out the grid for this evening. So, well, with these times, this is set up to be an absolute cracker of a race, and we're now on the grid a few minutes before we set off on the formation lap. To say again, hello everyone in the chat. I do have a better view of it this week. I could barely see it last time, so I'll keep updated here on what you're saying. It is just me today, Jamie, with you. 90 minutes race. It's going to be very long, so please do say hello in the chat and let me know what you're seeing, and I'll do my very best to bring as much of the action to you as possible. So I spoke about this being the championship decider. As I mentioned, we've got Footner 7 points ahead of Andrelli. So Andrelli currently in 6th on the grid with Footner on pole. It's going to be a big ask for Andrelli, but he'll be in it to win it, and he's just got to get in there and do the best job he can, do everything he can to keep that Ferrari on the road in tip-top shape and get the best result that he can, and what will be. But Footner, who's been the standout driver of this particular series, he has been one of the fastest drivers in the league for a few seasons now that he's been a part of this, and he's certainly earned these great results that he's getting, but he does need to put it together this evening. So I would only take one mistake, one poor decision that could send you into the wall and give you over a minute's worth of damage, and all of a sudden you're in the lower half of the field and needing to fight your way back. So whilst he's in the best position he could be in, considering the championship, he will absolutely not be resting on his laurels, and he's in the chat there. I know he's feeling quite nervous, so wish him well for the race. A couple of words on the track before we get going here. So of course we are at the Nurburgring GP circuit configuration, which is the one that we have available to us in ACC. We don't have the famous big brother, the Nordschleifer, unfortunately, but still this is a circuit that is very challenging and for me personally enjoyable as well. It's very popular. Most of us will know it very well, either through driving it through simulators, or most of the major European racing series feature a round or two here. So it's a challenging circuit, particularly in GT3 machinery. And we'll see how some of the drivers cope, particularly on tyres that start to degrade a bit later on in stints. High to medium downforce track, I would say, for most cars. There's some overtaking opportunities as well. Turn 1, which is going to be a very interesting place to be on lap 1. So I look forward to bringing the action. Hopefully we get through there nice and cleanly, but throughout the race it'll be probably be the easiest overtaking spot, but there are opportunities such as down into the hairpin at turn 7, and also if you're game into that final chicane, if you're brave on the brakes there. Track limits and curbs, I know we say it just about every broadcast, but again they're a big factor here. A number of curbs, particularly on the inside of corners, are very high, and so certain cars will not play nice along those curbs, and you need to give them space and respect. Track limits, whilst there's a lot of gravel and grass here, so it can be punishing if you go off track, there are some sections where there is some generous runoff, we can say, particularly in that sector 1, in that first complex. There's a lot of runoff there, and it is easy to take just a little bit too much and earn yourself a track limit violation. I think we saw in qualifying there quite a number of drivers take a while to lay down a valid lap because they're probably taking a bit too much into that first complex. It's coming down here, starting to form up. 90-minute race. We're starting quite early in the morning. You will have noticed it was a little bit darker as the drivers set off from the grid. The race will go right through the day and into the early evening. So as you would expect, you would see things like track temperatures increase and then decrease. And the sunlight and visibility will, of course, alter over the course of the race. But for now, drivers have got the lights on and ready to head down into turn 1 for lap 1, season 7, round 5, final round, and we're away. So Footner's got a good start there. Looks like it's quite compressed. Just behind him there with a number of Bentleys vying for position. So that's Burrow Dog. He's checked up a little bit. Sorry, that was GT King. Ty Morgo has managed to almost pick the spot off, but GT King is fighting back here. And it looks like he's going to hold the line into the left-hander, so he's played that well. Burrow Dog wants a piece of that action. But Ty will have the inside for that right-hander there. Look at the action there. Oh, there's a bit of drama at the back. Not sure who that was. It might have been Bounty. Looks like he got a bit out of shape there. Riggsy, could have been Riggsy, so he's pulled aside, maybe redressing. See what else we've got going on here. Burrow Dog putting pressure on Ty. The timing board will just sort itself out. Looks like that Riggsy Bounty situation is probably the only one that we've had there, although Cermic Squid looks like he's fallen off the back a bit. Angry Old Fella and Gaz, so there might have been something there that we didn't see, unfortunately. Let's have a look at the front now, though, and it again is Footner and GT King heading the field. So GT King did well to fend off the challenges of Ty Morgo there into the opening sector, and he needed to do that, but Burrow Dog's really putting pressure on Ty coming into the chicane. Just looking at what we got here, and we've got a very compressed mid-pack there. Look from Adman, there's a pack of 5 cars, very close. Adman just ahead of Fly Sky, and that looks like Sparky God. Fly's ducked out from behind the slipstream. Aaron braking late there as well, looking to take advantage of the fighting that's going on just ahead. So Riggsy's managed to make up a few places here. He's just sitting off the back of this pack. Aaron very deep on the brake. Sparky getting quite a lot of the inside curb. I thought Aaron was going to have a look there. Sparky closed the door. Entitled to do. Burrow Dog continues to fill Ty Morgo's rear view mirror with bright headlights. I think the sun's starting to come up at the track, so you can see some of my cameras that I'm using here are going a little bit funny with brightness and contrast, so hopefully that'll sort itself out. Burrow thinks he's got a good run here. Tight into the slipstream of Ty. Difficult place to overtake though, coming into this chicane because it's so fast. It is possible to do though. Driver's taking it with so much speed in the Bentley there. That was Jambon monstering the Ferrari of Andrelli just behind that. You just caught a little bit in the background. Having driven the Ferrari here as well as other mid-engine cars. That final chicane is a very, very tricky part of the circuit indeed. So I think we've had someone disconnect. I did see someone disappear, but I can't quite... Was that Burrow Dog? I think that was Burrow Dog. Oh, we've lost Burrow Dog. Oh, that's a shame. That is a big shame. Just double checking I don't have my glasses on, that he isn't hiding somewhere in plain sight on my timing board, but no, I think we have lost him, so that is very, very disappointing to see a front-running car disappear off the grid like that. Particularly Burrow Dog. So that, though, does let Ty Moore go off the hook a little bit. He has dropped a few seconds off the pace from Footner and GT King. So he'll be able to dust himself off a little bit, get into a bit of a groove, and see if he can make an impression a bit later on in the stint. Yeah, certainly a shame. I can see you all in the chat there. Disappointed for Burrodog. I mentioned he took out his first victory this season. I think a very popular Victor, a very popular driver, Burrow. Huge part of the community. This little battle here is starting to attract more drivers. And we have a bit of a train behind Andrelli. So this battle features Andrelli, Jambon, Adman, Fly, Sparky, Aaron, Rigsy, and then Metal's not too far off the back of them with Bounty as well. So that is a 7 car battle. Let's see if we can have a look at this in chopper view. That is brilliant. That is absolutely brilliant. So let's hope we get as many of these drivers in such close proximity for the bulk of this race, bringing the action, because it's a long time to be fighting in a pack such as this. There's a bit of a run there. That's Fly on Adman. Just coming in. Adman's given some room. Fly doesn't take it. Probably wise. A bit difficult to come from how far back he was. So that's a bit of a bad exit there from Sparky.God, and Aaron's taken full advantage of that. Gets him before even the chicane. So great work from Aaron to take advantage there. That's Adman off. So Adman's gone off. He's lost at least one position to Fly, and now Aaron's just thinking all his Christmases have come at once here. He's just taking positions left, right and centre from drivers making errors and finding themselves off track. Sparky God is going to look at taking the opportunity. Adman breaks late, looks to retain the outside, but gives up the corner. He's going to try and fend off from Rigsy now in that Lexus. So difficult end to the lap there for Adman. He'll want to shake himself off and regroup and get back going again. Certainly right. Simon Footner's got his groove on. He's currently 1.6 to the good of GT King. Stayed about that gap for a couple of minutes now, so GT King might have just started to get his tyre temperatures in the window that he's comfortable with. I know I say it every round, and you're probably sick of me hearing it, but it is so imperative to keep the pressure on Footner in the early stages. He's so fast that he will skip away from you very, very quickly, and before you know it, he's 10 seconds up the road and he can go into conservation mode, and he's unbeatable from that position. So GT King will want to do his absolute best, probably driving out of his skin to ensure that he stays within a couple of seconds here. He's taken about a tenth or so off Footner on that lap. But GT King's had a fantastic debut season on ACC, coming over from GT Sport, where he's a very experienced and very fast campaigner over there on the Ruse GT League. He's come over to ACC and has acclimatized very, very nicely. So back to this battle here. Now it's Jambon who's feeling the pressure at the head of the group. Sorry, it's Morgo. Jambon sitting in behind Andrelli. So Morgo has fallen into the clutches of this group rather than pulling away. In fact, he must have had a bit of an issue because he's now 8.3 seconds behind GT King. So maybe a mistake or two there has upset his rhythm, and now he's really back into this battle pack. Hard to keep up because there's lots of changes going on here. Adman's fallen behind Rigsy. So perhaps struggling a little bit in the early phases of the race. Andrelli going wide there, that's going to give a very good chance for Jambon to get a run here. Andrelli's gone defensive. Jambon doesn't have a way to get through there. See the different lines that some of the drivers in the different cars are taking. A lot of Bentleys in the field again. So I think Aaron's perhaps dropped down a couple of places there as Jambon running very close to Andrelli coming into turn 1. Rain of fire there in the chat mentioned it was great to see a good clean turn 1 on lap 1, and it was, but it can still be very dangerous place throughout the lap when you're in situations like these drivers are at the moment, running very close together. So easy to just miss your braking marker or not factor in that you need to brake a little bit earlier when you're following a car very closely, as we know, with that downhill braking section and a little bit of a kink as well. It's probably one of the most difficult turn 1s on the calendar, that's for sure. Pagnian, Next Level Racing drivers, Morgo and Jambon, they're the drivers under pressure at the moment. Andrelli might be thinking there's nothing to lose, just throw everything at Morgo here. There's Fly Sky putting pressure on Jambon just behind them. So as I said a bit earlier, we didn't quite spot what happened a bit down the field. Gaza started in 13th or so, I believe, but has found himself off the back, as has Angry Old Fella. Tabasco's benefited in the Lamborghini there. It's moved up a couple of spots. Andrelli sweating on a Morgo mistake here. GT King holding that gap to Footner at about 1.6 seconds, which is good for us viewers. You can see the gap there. Footner will be able to see GT King in his mirrors, which is exactly what GT King will want him to see. Footner looks like he's on his best lap so far, with his best being a 1:55.2, so a quick race lap. This one will be there or thereabouts. 55.3 and a 54.9 for GT King, so that is the fastest lap of the race, I believe. From GT King it is, so this is going to be fantastic if GT King can keep the pressure on from a race perspective. And look at that, he's even managing to find time still in the first complex. So with the start time being early in the morning and the track temperatures warming up as the race goes on, temperatures do get quite high after starting quite low at about the 20-degree track temperature range. So there'll be different strategies from the drivers. Do they look to have the tyres in the window a little bit earlier in the race, make an impression, say the first half an hour or so? Do they want the tyres to come to them a bit later on towards the stint? And then how do they play that again for the second stint as the temperatures will start to drop towards the end of the race? I know in one of the practice races that I did before our actual PS5 tier race last week, I set my pressures to come into the window a bit later in the stint, but in doing so I took a bit too much out of them in the opening 10 or so minutes, and they ended up overheating and overpressuring, and they wouldn't drop back down again. So if you are going to have a strategy that brings your tyres into the window a bit later on in the stint, you still need to ensure that you nurse the tyres a little bit, which is difficult to do because you also need to push them a little bit just to ensure that you get that temperature into them. It's all about driving in the right way, avoiding sliding the tyres over the surface of the racetrack on the entry into corners, avoiding the wheel spin on exits. Those little things, each corner, each lap, just help you to eke a little bit more life out of the tyres and a little bit more performance. So as I've been talking here, we've seen Fly Sky lose a couple of positions to Jambon, and Aaron as well, who is again benefiting from mistakes that are happening ahead of him. He's currently in 6th position, so great race so far for Aaron. He's heading up a couple of Coach Dave Academy drivers. Our new team to the league for this season. We've welcomed Coach Dave Academy and the Sim Grid on board as a sponsor, and a naming of a team alongside our other sponsors, who we should also give a shout out to: the Gamesman, Pagnian and Next Level, Selby Acoustics. It's great to have these partners and sponsors on board sponsoring our teams, and we have other partners as well beyond trophies who supplied us with some great looking awards for our end of season champions. Really appreciate them doing that for us, and Andrelli for arranging that. Time Orgo still holding off Andrelli. In doing though, he's really allowing GT King and Footner to continue to extend out the advantage, so could be a two-horse race at the front with a number of drivers scrapping for the final podium position. That long battle with a number of drivers is still kind of there, though it has kind of split in half a little bit, where Sparky is just a few seconds off Fly and Aaron and Jambon. And then we've got another couple of battles going on here. Rigsy and Sparky, Adman and Bounty. There's plenty going on here. I'll come back up to the battle at the front, which is for third position currently. And Andrelli followed Adman almost the entire race at Hungary and saw Adman take that podium ahead of him. He's now looking at the rear of Time Orgo, sitting in third place. Still got over an hour to go though. A lot to play out over the remaining period. Yes, certainly congrats on the championship win, Simon. Great call out. Rain of fire there in the chat. Well done on your, I believe, first championship for Ruse. I believe it was your first season driving with us at Ruse here, so well done on securing that championship. And again, well done, Slambo. I can see you in the chat there if you're following along. Your first ACC championship to go along with probably a very stacked trophy cabinet from Ruse across project cars and various other platforms that you've probably raced in over a period of time. Footner looks like he's in the box seat for this Tier 1 PS4 championship, but like I said, we've still got a long way to go here, so I'm not going to call anything just yet. Andrelli's just fallen off a little bit from Ty, and GT King travelling around 3.5 seconds behind Footner, so just hasn't quite been able to live with the consistent pace. Footner, who looks like he is very consistently in the low 55s, so he doesn't hold the outright fastest lap, which GT King does, but he's putting in the consistent times, and that's what matters, and he knows that, and that's why he's such a great driver. You can see a 55.9 from GT King on that last tour, which is the second off his best. Consistency is so important. So there's a lot going on here. I've just checked in on Adman and Bounty. Looks like Adman has snuck away from Bounty there a little bit. They were quite close. So let's have a look back at Jambon and Aaron. Some good driving and race car craft from what I've seen anyway. A few individual mistakes which have dropped some drivers down the order a bit, but haven't seen any contact of note. spoken before about the popularity of the Bentley this season across all divisions, but particularly this one. There are currently 8 on track at the moment. Burrodog, who unfortunately lost to a disconnect, was the other one. We've seen races where we've had up to 10 Bentleys in the server, which is pretty incredible. Bounty had an amazing stat on the podium website, which had the count of Bentleys across the 3 servers at 26, with the next most popular being the Ferrari Evo at 10. So it is, I'm told, quite a forgiving car to drive, particularly for newcomers to the league, getting up to speed, learning the racecraft and the techniques, and also for drivers who perhaps don't have quite as much time to lay down practice laps throughout the weeks. Being able to jump in something that is a bit compliant and a bit familiar, such as the Bentley, makes it quite favourable. Aaron just got a little bit wide there, coming out of turn 11. Which means he has taken the pressure off Jambon and put the pressure on himself with Fly Sky sailing up to the back of him. Andrelli starting to creep back up to Ty Morgo. So it looks like he has the pace. Jambon and Aaron are starting to close in a little bit to this group. Aaron's immediately latched himself onto the back of the rear wing of Jambon. So if these 3 continue on as they are, they might be able to bridge this 2-second gap. We could have a 5-car battle for the final podium position here. Fly Sky's very close in the slipstream of Aaron. Difficult to spot your braking marker there into the chicane. We certainly had some issues leading in, and it looks like Fly is going to take advantage of a slight mistake from Aaron coming into the final corner. Looks like he didn't quite get it hooked into the apex, perhaps had to check up a little bit from Ty, and now he's lost a lot of ground. Fly, oh, they've come together. That is very, very unfortunate. So, look like door to door there. Probably have to see that again to see who might have been at fault. It is a difficult corner. I spoke earlier about it's downhill and it has a kink right into the braking zone. So, and is that Ty? Is that Ty Morgo? No, that's Jambon. So Jambon's pulled over. So what's going on there? A bit unsure what's happened there for Jambon, but it all happened there for a little bit with that coming together between Aaron and Fly. So it means Aaron's dropped down the order. He was driving so well. But it looks like there was a bit of a misconfiguration from both drivers. If you're on the outside, as Aaron was, you start to run out of road and you need to kind of hook in right as you hit the braking point. And for Fly, coming through on the inside, probably needed to realise that Aaron needed to make that adjustment to remain within the track limits. And so that has just ended in side-by-side collision between the drivers and a sent, particularly Aaron, off into a spin. So we have a pitter. It's Gaz, the first one to trouble the mechanics. Quite an early stop at just over half an hour in. As he exits the pits, he's going to be a lap down on a lot of the drivers, so he just might be looking to find a bit of clear space on his own, see out the final hour, lay down some solid consistent laps. But Footner is really leading the way. 7 seconds the gap between him and GT King, and he has managed to skip away, so he's taken the pressure off himself for the moment with those clean consistent laps, those mid to low 55s. You'll start to fall into the mid to high 55s very shortly as we start to see the back end of the stint, but he's still very quick. And he's really doing exactly what he needs to take home a consecutive championship here this evening. Ty Morgo and Andrelli continue to run very close together here on the track. Andrelli will now start to be thinking about the strategy. Undercut or overcut. Here at this circuit, probably it's more car dependent on the pace that you have, I would say. It can take a little bit to get the tyres warmed up around here, particularly depending on what strategy you're running with your tyre pressures. If you're looking for them to come into the window a bit later on in the session, you might actually find that your tyres come into the window quite quickly on your opening lap. So that undercut, a very viable option. But if he has a pace advantage, certainly if Ty decides to beat him into the pit lane first, Andrelli might have the confidence to be able to unleash a little bit of pace that he might not be able to show here. Sitting behind Ty, bit of dirty air. Could be affecting his tyres as well. Angry old fella. Second driver to make the mandatory pit stop. Of course, we're pitting for tyres this season. Mandatory. Not fuel. Always Andrelli has gotten a little bit of the curb at the Schumacher S's. He puts on the brakes, which is a great move to ensure that he doesn't fall back into the path of the rest of the pack that were coming through. Very, very unfortunate for Andrelli, and that's made what was already a very difficult assignment even more difficult, and probably even more disappointing has possibly taken him out of podium contention. Really, it would have been great to see him on the podium as a reward for what has been a fine season. But just a little error 35 minutes in. Has undone all that great work. Now Ty Morgo will be breathing a sigh of relief. which means Fly Sky has elevated himself up into 4th. Riggsy 5th. Brilliant job. Taking advantage of everything that's been going on. Like I said, probably not a lot of genuine overtakes, but some drivers just having some individual errors here and there. And we've had some drivers, other drivers taking full advantage of that. Fly Sky, Riggsy and Sparky God being huge beneficiaries. It's also allowed Adman, who we saw was probably one of the first to make a mistake in the early laps. Perhaps his tyres are starting to come up to pressure later on in this stint. He's starting to find a bit of pace and is really all over the back of Sparky God here. See, Adman almost made the same mistake there as Andrelli. Coming into the second part of the chicane there, you can see he got a little bit wide. It's allowed Aaron to come up and cause him a few problems. So now Adman's gone from putting the pressure on Sparky to feeling the pressure. We've seen that a lot already in the first 35 minutes or so, with how closely the cars are running. Battles in front and behind. You can go from putting the pressure on to feeling the pressure very, very quickly. Aaron having a look up the inside, but probably a bit too far back. He's decided to go deep into the corner, but has missed the apex, so that'll give Ads a bit of room to get himself straightened out and get back after Sparky God. So Jambon's still cycling around there. I wonder what happened. He just kind of pulled over and we got kind of lucky that I happened to land on him just as he was doing that, but didn't seem to see what happened there. Sparky God, as we come back to this battle here with Adman, it's gone a bit wide at the hairpin down into turn 7. Sorry, turn 6. Now we're into turn 7. And we've got a reformation of a battle pack here. Sparky doing a great job keeping that CDA Bentley pointing straight, using all of the road, getting his exits quite nicely. You can see Aaron goes into that final corner very, very deep. Tries to swing it around. I quite like that as well, but you really need to get it right. Bounty looking to see if there's an open door there. Not quite. Aaron very much liking the late apex driving style. As I mentioned, I do quite like that in some circumstances, but it does leave you open in scenarios like this one. You need to ensure you get it right, otherwise you could be telegraphing that the door is wide open for the driver following to stroll right on through and up the inside. So all these drivers in about a second of each other, or half a second. A bit of other action going on just a bit further down the pack. Cermix Squid and Tabasco. back up to this battle now. Down to the final part of the lap into the chicane. Such a difficult chicane for the Ferrari as Aaron pulls the trigger and is into the pits. So he's the first of our top running group to make a strategy call. We are at optimum conditions, track temperature of 33 degrees. About 20 past 1 in the afternoon, so Sparky, Ads, Bounty all will have taken note of this. We'll see if they'll react. We're about. Oh, Ads again getting a little bit squirrely out of that turn 4. It's down to that first complex, so difficult. So Aaron, of course, had that little bit of contact with Fly coming into turn 1 a handful of laps ago. Wondering whether he may have opted to not fix whatever damage he was carrying, because he still had quite a bit of pace. I would say that the damage that he did have was probably not very performance affecting. So certainly an option to buy a few precious seconds or tenths and opt not to fix that damage. We'll see though. It's obviously important for him to get a clean, fast outlap. So he's on his way. Bounty's really taking the opportunity with Aaron out of the way to make an impression on Ads, who's now in a Coach Dave Academy Racing Bentley sandwich. Bounty looks like he's got pace at the moment. Bit of confidence on the tyres. Stable car. We did see that he, in the background, we didn't exactly see what happened, but that he had potentially got caught up in something around turn 4 on the opening lap, but since then has diligently chipped away the drivers ahead of him. He's now running in the top 10. Sparky, Adman and Bounty have yet to react to Aaron's pit stop strategy. The gap at the front, just over 11 seconds. So we've seen a change of position here. Riggsy has managed to take Fly at some point there, so unfortunately I've missed that. It looks like an error from Fly. So Riggsy up into 4th at the halfway point. That's a superb job. The mid 56s. That's great stuff there from Riggsy. Angry old fella giving him a bit of a hand there. In colours I'm not that are not that familiar with Angry Old Fella. Normally a P&L driver. I wonder if that's substitution. Well, actually it might be because there are no extra liveries for the Lexus, so I shouldn't make assumptions. But wow, it's a great result for Riggsy so far halfway in the race to be in 4th position on outright pace. Fly has opted to pit, so he's possibly seen the best of his tyres. Andrelli's in the pits as well, so a few drivers now opting to get rid of the old rubber. This battle still goes on though. Sparky a bit wide coming out of the exit there, so Adman's going to get a really good run. He might be a little bit too far back though. Coming into the turn 13-14 chicane. That's right, Janice, still a long way to go. Anything can happen. Riggs is doing a great job as that was Sparky coming into the pits as Footnar, GT King and Ty Morgo. So we have a very busy pit lane at the moment. Jambon coming in as well. So Footnar's already away. Retains the lead of the race. Such was his advantage over the field. GT King away. Time will go in 3rd position. So I wasn't quite able to get a time delta between Ty Morgo and Riggsy. Could have been around a few seconds, so we'll see if Riggsy can play a bit of a strategy here. So he actually leads the race now, so I was incorrect. Footnar taking that pit stop has dropped him down, but he will of course regain the lead when Riggsy, Adman and Bounty opt for the pit lane. Just having a look at how things have shaken out after the pit stops. I believe Jambon has leapfrogged Aaron. I think they were around the opposite order before the pit stops. Apologies, it is very difficult to follow all of this on your own. So I'm doing my best here. Is Riggsy in the pits? Like I said, I'm a bit unsure of where that time difference was between him and Ty Morgo, but I'm very interested to see where this will spit him out and if he's managed to reduce a bit of a gap to Ty, maybe even fight him for position. Everyone else looks roughly in the order that I saw them in. Let's see, Riggsy, we've got Ty Morgo coming around the last corner. Riggsy still in the pits, Ty Morgo, so Ty will come through and retain his 3rd position. Riggsy is away, so the gap isn't too big. This is definitely workable, but Riggsy needs to fend off Aaron. He's managed to do so. So by my calculations here, that will mean Riggsy will retain 4th place. Aaron's done really well there, so that pitting early strategy with the fresh tyres has really brought him back in. He did have that coming together with Jambon. He was the first one to pit, put on the fresh set of tyres, and just banged out some good, clean, consistent laps. Look at Riggsy's weaving across the track to generate heat into the tyres. Let's get a closer look at the action here. Been on chopper view for a while now. Riggsy will just be hoping that his tyres hit the window, and you can see he's run a little bit wide coming onto the back straight there. This is going to give Aaron a very nice opportunity. Pulls out, but that Lexus has some legs. Ooh. Lost a bit of the rear end there, Aaron, on the switch back through the chicane. And Riggsy will wipe the sweat off his forehead, because now he's got a little bit of a buffer that he can now use to get into the groove, start to look after his tyres a bit. He's going to have much fresher tyres than Aaron is, and if he's looked at his pressures strategically and they come to him a bit later in the race, we saw how quick he was at the end of that first stint there. He could be in a good position to build on his net fourth place here at the moment. Adman and Bounty still yet to pit, so a long way into the race for Bounty and Adman. Bit of a new group forming battle-wise between Sparky, Metal Steel, Jambon. We haven't seen a lot of Metal tonight, but he's been there chipping away. Another Bentley driver. Jambon trying to come back from whatever issue it was that he had, that we saw him pull over to the side of the track just after turn 4. And Adman continues to lead us in this race, though still yet to pit. Bounty 1 second behind. So we've seen something happen here. Aaron has fallen right down the order. Just trying to see if there's some damage. Doesn't look like it. So he must have come off and had a reasonable sized moment, though the drivers between Riggsy in 6th and Aaron himself in 12th are all relatively close, so even maybe a small spin with a loss of about 10 or 12 seconds, very easy to drop down the order. It's about the Adman and Bounty pull the trigger. Coming into the pits, and we'll see if running the overcut proves to be a good strategy here. They will certainly have the freshest tyres at the very end. We've seen it's been a little bit difficult to overtake tonight. The car's very even on pace. We saw in qualifying 1 second right down to about 13th or 14th place. So unless you have a good pace advantage, the straights aren't really long enough and the corners don't really fashion enough of an opportunity to make good clean passes, and we've seen drivers just taking advantage of the mistakes of those ahead of them. We'll see where these two come out. So Riggsy is going to come through, as is Fly. This could be close though, with perhaps Sparky, Bounty coming through. Let's see if I can go back to the timing sheet. Oh, we've had a problem here. That's Sparky. That's Jambon. Oh, and Andrelli's come in as well. Bounty was there. Oh, that's a big problem at turn 1. I think Bounty was coming out of the pits. I wonder if him coming out of the pits has caught someone by surprise. Oh, and Jambon running a bit wide. Bounty coming through. Well, that was a bit chaotic, to say the least. And Andrelli, bit of a passenger coming through at the most inopportune time. Couldn't pull up in time, so he's been impacted. Where is... So Aaron was in there as well. Metal Steel, so yep. Wow, a lot going on there. Let me see if I can tempt fate and see if we can have a look at a bit of a replay. That's GT King, see if we can go to... See if we can find Bounty. Maybe, and go back. Okay, let's see if we can see this coming out of the pits. Don't mean to pick on Bounty, but I know he was in it, so it might give us the best chance to see what happened. So Adman gets away nicely, manages to get out just ahead of the pack. So Bounty's come out. Got a few fellow CDA drivers. Oh, Jambon just got it all wrong and has completely taken out those Bentleys there, and then there's Andrelli just putting the kick in, and he goes around himself. So yep, that's unfortunate from Jambon. Let's go back to the action though, and we might perhaps see a word from the stewards there. Let's see what else has happened. So it's benefited Adman though, because he has managed with that overcut strategy to vault himself up into 6th position, and he is on the most freshest tyres. So he'll be looking to close up on Fly, maybe even Riggsy. Fly looks like his 1.6 gap ahead to Riggsy is the closest battle on track at the moment. So a little bit spread out, but not too spread out. Couple of mistakes. Oh, and Riggsy's just had one there. You could see Fly really closed up on him coming into the final turn, so that looks like it was a moment for Riggsy through the chicane. Just keep an eye on this battle here, the closest one on track. Riggsy and Fly Sky. Coach Dave Academy and Gamesman Racing Team battling it out here. Similar colour scheme. Flies, another driver, has been doing a great job this evening. He's had a couple of moments, but he's certainly capitalised on a number of mistakes. He's put himself in a good position here. Let's go on board and see how he's faring, riding behind Rigsy. Good to see all the braking marker boards. Oh, as Fly Sky gets it wrong there. Took a bit too much speed in, managed to get over the sausage curbs, but just sent him right on into the gravel and the grass. So he's got away with it, but lost a handful of seconds to Rigsy. Okay, and unfortunately saving the replay as I did a bit earlier has meant that I've lost movement in the TV cameras, so I have to bring the rest to you from Chopper Cam. So while we've got a little bit of field spread as we head in, we're in the final 30 minutes. Take a moment to look at Cameron Footner in imperious form, really. Look at that, he can afford to take it nice and easy, picking up the throttle very progressively. That's a 156.0, which is probably exactly where he wants to be. We saw that he did have the pace in the first stint to be in the low 55s. But you can see with his throttle inputs, the way he's positioning the car into the entries and exits. We're used to Cameron at full pelt, hands flying everywhere at the wheel, all action, rear end kicking out. That's his style. He absolutely does not need that right now. He can afford to rein it in, look after the tyres, minimise the chance of mistakes. So we'll take a pretty big error, or even when taking it a little bit easy, you can see that if you get a little bit on the Astro turf there, down into turns 10 and 11, can wake you up. Coasting a little bit into the entry of the final chicane. Still able to take quite a lot of speed. Very, very early and tight apex into the last corner. He does it really well. And again, another consistent time. GT King held on valiantly in the first, I would say, 20 minutes or so of the race, hanging in there within a few seconds, which was almost exactly how it played out in the Hungaroring last round. And then ultimately the pace and consistency of Footner was just a bit too much to live with for GT King, so he's now a bit of a lonely race in second. But as I said earlier, what a debut season he's had. It's been a pleasure having him on the grid in the ACC League here at Ruse. I'm sure he'll stick around to give it another crack next season. Time Olgo was really under pressure for the first half an hour or so from Andrelli. It definitely contributed to him falling off the back of GT King and Footner initially. Andrelli, though, unfortunately had a moment into the Schumacher S's. That let Ty off the hook, and Ty subsequently cycled around by himself since that time and since the pit stops, but absolutely full credit to him, he has not made a mistake. He has kept that thing on the road, pointing straight, and whilst he might not have been the outright fastest, he's the one that's kept it on the road. Riggsy is shaken off Fly Sky. He's holding down a pretty comfortable 4th position at the moment. He'll be absolutely thrilled with this performance. He's got 22 minutes to keep it straight. There have been a few races this season and he's competed across, I think, all of the servers, all of the tiers in both PS5 and PS4. There's been a few times where it just felt like that big result was on the cards. In practice, you could see the pace that he'd be extracting from that Lexus. He's really come to grips with it and able to find the best from it. But then when on for a potentially great result, either hasn't able to hook it up in qualifying or has unfortunately succumbed to early race incidents which have really cruelled his chances in championships this season, but now can really stretch the legs here a bit, show what the Lexus is capable of. He did qualify down the order, but once again taken a lot of advantage from misfortune ahead of him. So it looks like we've got a couple of drivers starting to converge now. Metal Steel just a second behind Aaron, who's been up and down the leaderboard like a yo-yo. Showed some blistering pace and then unfortunately found himself in a few circumstances. Saw him tumbling again, fought his way back, only to tumble back down again. So he is in 8th though, so mid-pack, still a good result. Bounty recovering after being unfortunately taken out as he was coming out of the pits. Jan von Sickle was approaching turn 1 and unfortunately got the braking all wrong. To be fair, he had a lot going on in front of him. Bounty coming out of the pits and a couple of other CDA and I think a GRT driver right ahead of him, but it is incumbent on us to have our heads up, our eyes open, and understand what's going on around us, when to apply the brake pedal a bit earlier than you normally would, just to ensure that you don't find yourself causing an accident. And unfortunately, Jambon didn't quite get it right there, and I'm sure he'll be disappointed with himself at that. He's found himself in a battle now with Andrelli. Coming up to turns 10 and 11 there. Using the AstroTurf is very dangerous, but you can gain so much time. You've got to ensure that your car's pointing straight. Get on the traction early. Andrelli's got a good run there. It actually looked like he might have backed off the throttle slightly. Didn't want to chance an overtake against Jambon into the chicane. Perhaps feels down into turn 1 is a more preferable place. He's got a good exit there. Now it's all going to come down to horsepower of the Ferrari and what downforce configuration they might be running. Looks like Jambon had the measure of the Ferrari, which is not something we normally see. Bentley quite often struggles a little bit for top end speed. Ferrari, not the best, but certainly can take it to most of the cars in the field. Into this downhill braking section, Jambon took an early apex, but it sent him out wide, and that's really caused Andrelli to come off his normal racing line there. He's couldn't pick up the accelerator as early as he would have liked, or when he's taken a bit of the inside curb there at the Schumacher S's. That was exactly what he did when he made that error a bit earlier on in the race, so tempting fate. But he is unfortunately seeing his championship hopes fade away. With Footner well into the lead of this race, and Andrelli down outside of the top 10. Andrelli had a 7-point deficit to Footner, so he really needed everything to go his way. And unfortunately, the exact opposites happened, and everything's gone Footner's way. And Andrelli's seen the worst of the luck. But we can take nothing away from his pace and his season so far. He's of course taken it to Footner here in the PS4 Tier 1. But he's also joined us over on the PS5 tier, driving the Ferrari there as well. He's certainly been in the mix up the front, showing a lot of pace. In the top 3, 4, 5 positions. So I think he'll be very happy with what he's managed to produce this season. Season 7. Could be a good launch pad for him for next season to potentially challenge for a championship. Now I wanted to keep an eye on this battle because I said that Adman had the freshest tyres out of anyone in the field, aside from Bounty, and he's now starting to make good use of them and put a lot of pressure on Fly, who has also driven a good race, but you can certainly see he's been a little bit wild in parts. Admin really getting to grips with this Ferrari. And he asked me for some advice earlier on in the season at how to tame it, what is the best way to get the most out of it. Fly a bit of an exit, poor exit on turn 4. He's having to go defensive now into turn 5, where the track starts to open up, but also a very difficult section to overtake. He's gone wide again. Admin just couldn't quite get on to the throttle as early as he would like. But Fly is once again going defensive. And Adman's going to take advantage of that because Fly just went a little bit too deep, took the early apex, but then just couldn't get it turned in time. And Adman has said, "Thank you very much," and has taken the position. So difficult when you go into that corner, because if you want to take that early apex, you've got to ensure you don't have too much steering lock applied at the time, which is very tempting to do because you want to get yourself around the corner. But if you're carrying too much speed and you're not trail braking effectively, then you're going to end up quite wide, and it's very dirty and dusty out on the outside of that corner. So Adman has played an absolute blinder there to take advantage of that and gain 5th position from Fly Sky, who is still in a really excellent 6th position. We've seen him, he's been very wobbly, that he's got the rear end, always seems to be lashing out on that McLaren, but he's getting the pace out of it, so well done to him there. Thanks, Janice, appreciate that comment. Certainly been plenty of action to talk about, which has made this job a hell of a lot easier. I do admit, talking naturally for 90 minutes straight is probably not my forte, but doing my best to take us to the end here, and wanted to ensure that we brought the final round of the championship to everyone. Fortunately, it wasn't with all the bells and whistles that we normally have with our production. As I said, JJ taking a bit of a holiday, well-earned holiday at the moment, so I hope he's enjoying that, and we can come back next season. The team will hopefully have a great new updated production for RaceOnOz Season 8. I have to also shout out to Nick, still doing a lot of broadcasting for us on the Ruse Tube for our PC League. He's doing a great job there. K-Man and Adman doing an equally fantastic job bringing PS4 Tier 2. So they brought that final round to you last week. Many of you would have tuned in, I'm sure. And they've struck up a great little partnership between them. They've of course taken on some extra responsibilities across the PS or the console league on ACC, alongside Stu and JJ and the captains, of course, keeping things in order and making this a great league to be a part of. Fly's going to try and hang on to Adman here, not let him get away in this last 10 minutes. Keep it a bit interesting towards the end. So as we've seen, time of day is now past 6:30 PM. We're starting to see the track and the ambient temperatures drop. So I expect that to trickle down to about 20-degree track temperature by the end. So there'll be a few drivers who'll start to struggle with tyres under pressure. Rigsy 3.7 seconds behind Time Orgo, so has been inching away there, but quite possibly will not have enough time with 8 and a bit minutes to go. So it was a 56.6 for Rigsy. If I have a look, 57.9 for Ty, so perhaps it was 1 or 2 bad laps for him. Fly Sky starting to creep a little bit further up behind Adman now. So this will start to worry Adman a little bit. How close Fly is getting. Obviously has some really good pace. So they've been able to rein it in consistently each and every lap. Difficult for anyone to do over any length of race, let alone a 90-minute race. Real test of endurance. Andrelli has fallen off the back of Jambon there a bit. Tabasco still cycling around there in the Lambo. He's another driver that I don't think has managed to cover as much practice ground as he would like, or perhaps he has in previous seasons, because he is a very quick driver. He's featured on the podium, race victories in some of the divisions in previous seasons, so but he's still got in there and joined every week. Still enjoying his racing, we hope. Aaron has been in 8th position for a little while after yo-yoing up and down the board. Starting to put a bit of pressure on Sparky in the closing stages. Sparky has done well though. I think he was caught up in that turn 1 incident just at the end of the pit stop window when Jambon unfortunately came through and took out a few cars there. But he's recovered well because he's had a good race in general, Sparky. Can see the confidence Aaron has under the brakes to turn down 11. Rigsy now has really started to close up on tyre, so this is interesting. This is for a podium position. Just over 4.5 minutes remaining. Keep an eye on that time between Aaron and Sparky, but this could be a story here with Rigsy starting to fill the mirrors of Time Orgo's Bentley. Ty, who shook off the Ferrari of Andrelli earlier on in the race, now has another Gamesman Racing Team driver in Rigsy. Well, this will be massive if Rigsy can take this to Ty here and make a move for a podium position. Not sure that, from memory, if he's picked up a podium in a top division as yet, so that is a big carrot, albeit a banana flavoured and coloured one, hanging in front of him right now. So I wonder if Ty's struggling on his tyres. You can see he's really struggling to get that car turned in, and Riggsy's Lexus is just eating up the meters between both the cars. And that 1.3 second gap at the start of the lap is really down to a handful of tenths. So it's going to be critical here for Rigsy now to pick his exits as best as he can. He doesn't have a lot of time, but he needs to understand where Ty looks like he's going to be the weakest. I would think, just based on what I'm seeing, if Ty is really struggling with tyre performance, a traditional overtaking spot such as turn 1 is probably not going to be the place. He's probably going to have to pull a move like what Adman pulled with Fly and continue to hound the rear wing of Ty and hope that Ty tries to push the tyres a bit too far. It's right up the back now. This is great stuff right at the very end. Thanks, JC. Appreciate that, mate. Like I said, I'm glad I can just bring it to you. Final round. Finish off the season on a high. So let's have a quick look where Footner is. He's just starting a lap now, so we'll have at least one more lap. I think we will have one more lap after this. So Rigsy has about a lap and a half. What can he do here? You can see he gets out of turn 12. They're just so much better than Ty can. Just can get the power down, can carry the speed through there. He's got Janice cheering for Rigsy, as I'm sure many people are. Very popular bloke here in the Roos community. Very experienced. Team captain Ty Morgo in front of him. Knows how to bring home races. So it's a big ask for Rigsy. Look at Adman. He's a couple of seconds down, but he's sniffing. Oh, if these two come together, he could be on for a consecutive podium. He's had a great season, Adman. Very, very proud to see what he's done in the Ferrari. He took over the Ferrari baton from myself in Team BHR. He's really put in some great performances. So Footner got over the line just as we hit 0-0 for the final lap. But we have to keep an eye on this battle. Aaron is still trailing Sparky God there, so no change in position. Ty and Rigsy, look at how nicely Rigsy got out of there. That's turn 11. Oh, is he gonna have a little look up the inside? I think he might. No, he backs out of it. He's going to lose a bit of momentum there though. Ty really struggling to get through that sector 3, and Rigsy unfortunately took the final corner a bit too deep. So a little bit of pressure relaxed, a bit of relaxation for Ty. Aaron, you can see how dark it's gotten here at the circuit. Nearly 8 p.m. Andrelli's back on the back of Jambon Sickle as well, so there's action going on. We'll keep an eye on the fight for the podium though. Maybe Ty's done enough. We are not far away though from Footner coming over the line for another RaceOnOz ACC PS4 Tier 1 victory. He takes the checkered flag. Congratulations, Footner, on a victory, and congratulations provisionally for the championship. That is a fantastic drive, a fantastic season from him, and we'll be able to speak a bit more about that in a moment. Let's just follow the action though. Rigsy's fallen off a bit from Ty, but Adman has decided he wants to factor in this final lap here, but I think this is how they're going to stay. GT King comes over the line in second, so well done GT King on another podium position for you. And it looks like we're going to see Ty Morgo come over the line, take the final step on the podium for Pagnia Next Level Racing. Rigsy 4th, Adman 5th. That's top 5. Well done. Fly. Great drive to finish in the top half of the field in P6. We're going to have a battle to the end here. Sparky maintains his 7th position over Aaron. Metal still coming around in 9th. And we have a bit of a gap. Bounty had a bit of misfortune after his pit stop. He was driving really nicely around with Adman. Picks up top 10 for his troubles in the final race of the season. Then we have Jambon, Andrelli, Cermix, Squid, Tabasco. Gaz is here, angry old fella, and unfortunately we lost Burrow Dog in the early laps to a disconnect. But well done to the entire field, to the whole grid tonight. Fantastic race, 90 minutes. It's tough. It's tough to do these enduros on this platform, and with so many battles going on throughout the field, we had lots of action to bring to you. Why don't we see if I can have a chat with Cameron Footner as the winner of the race. I think that might be a good thing to bring you. Bear with me for a moment. Okay, so I'll just send him an invite and hopefully he can join us for a bit of a chat. But while we do, I'll just recap the order for you. So Cameron Footner took the victory, commanding 28-second win for him from GT King, who himself had an almost identical gap back to Ty Morgo in 3rd. Rigsy took out 4th position from Adman in 5th, Fly Sky in 6th, Sparky God 7th, Aaron, who featured quite heavily in the action this evening, and and then I've unfortunately lost the totem. So we will see if we can get Footner. And I think we may have got him. Cameron, are you there?
I am.
Well done, mate. Well done.
What a relief. Thank you.
It was not only a victory, but provisionally you've taken out the championship as well. And I know you were nervous going into it, and you put a lot of work in. But yeah, you must be feeling relief, but also good sense of accomplishment after what you've achieved this season.
Absolutely. It's been a little bit of an up and down 2 seasons, really. Some hardware issues, some contact. So just was, going out there with a mission today to go and drive away and prove that, I deserve to be where I was. So very happy to get the job done. Massive weight off the shoulders. I was panicking about disconnects, copping one in the Camaro Cup recently while leading. I was worried the whole way, but my internet held out luckily, and yeah.
It certainly did, and I guess the plan went reasonably smoothly. I said in commentary, and I know I've said it a lot, that once you establish a little bit of a gap, a bit of a lead, it's so difficult to hunt you down because you take that pressure off, and it happens for every driver in the lead. When you take a little bit of pressure off, it makes it a little bit easier to maintain some consistency. And GT King, he held on there for a little bit, but ultimately wasn't able to quite keep up and be consistent in terms of the lap times that you were doing. So we ultimately didn't see you quite a lot on the broadcast, unfortunately, but I'm sure that this has been a big week for you. You wrapped up the Camaro Cup as well, didn't you?
Yeah. Luckily, had a pretty good result there after finding the fence a couple of times, such as Bathurst. But GT King definitely put the pressure on. Mad props to him for being where he was. I've got a rule when I'm racing that I only get 2 lookbacks in a race. Typically that was for go-karting, so I've kind of extended that to like a couple, but I just try and hide the times. I don't want to race from looking backwards. I want to race looking forward. So the game plan's always to go out and just drive. And without the time there and without the rearview mirror, it makes it a lot easier to do that. So, yeah.
Good psychological approach. I was keen to ask you about how you went with the tyres. How did they hold up at the end of each of the stints?
Yeah, smashed it. I'm so happy. I made sure I did a full run last night. I wanted to see what the temps did. I wanted to do a couple of laps and get tyres. Wanted to get working temperatures, start, middle, and end. I sat there and I analysed my replays for probably about half an hour before I went to bed, deciding what I wanted to do with my pressures, and nailed it. Absolutely smashed it. They were fluctuating between 27.3 and 27.7 for 90% of the race until the last 10-12 minutes. So it was, stoked.
That's great, and that just shows why you are the victor of so many races in the championships, because it's looking at those little 1%ers, those little things, and it just make a big difference, particularly in the long races that we have here. The 1 hour and 90-minute races, just paying attention to those details is so important, so you think less about them in the moment. So well done on that. Looking to next season now, I assume that you'll be carrying on and going around again.
Would certainly like to. I hope there's the numbers there to warrant another season. Unfortunately, I'll still be on PS4 at this stage, so hopefully we get enough PS4 guys sticking around, and we have another exciting season.
Absolutely. Well, it's been a very exciting division. I think every race that we've managed to bring this season has had some fantastic battles, and I myself, commentating on my own the last couple of races was not short of things to talk about. So I'm sure you'll enjoy going back and watching the full broadcast, because there was some good action going on. Well, that's fantastic. Thanks for jumping on, and congratulations again on the win and the provisional championship. I'm sure the team behind the scenes will post up all the results and official positions very, very shortly, but I think we can safely call that in your favour, and well done to you.
Thank you, and thanks to everyone who made it possible. All the guys behind the scenes, Bounty, Andrelli, JJ, Ads, the captains, everyone, Gaz for bringing me on board, BHR boys and Barrow, Riggsy, all that for their support. Thank you to everyone who supported me and, believed in me.
Absolutely, and I'll echo that, and I'll close it off with those sentiments. We really appreciate everyone's work behind the scenes in bringing everything together for us to go racing this season. There's been some challenges at times with people needing to be on PS4 and others on PS5 and the different sorts of issues that we've faced on each of those versions. But the fact that everyone turns up week in, week out when they can and puts in their best and in a great spirit is what keeps us all going around. So thanks for your participation, everyone, and looking forward to seeing you in some form next season. You won't see me on track, but I will be around and poking my head in to say hello and seeing how you all go. So thanks again to everyone and all the best, and have a good evening.